Today's topic is oversexualization of superwomen in television and film. The reason I wanted to discuss this is because as a girl growing up with superhero movies, I wanted to see how the heroes I looked up to changed and evolved. Before we talk about heroes, let's define some terms. The first term is, of course, sexualization, which is to make something sexual in character or quality, or to become aware of sexuality. It is important to note that it can be linked to sexual objectification, treating a person as an object purely for sexual desire. Sexually objectifying experiences are not exclusively sexual in nature, but also include the societal pressure to create, present, maintain, and always improve an attractive appearance. According to APA, sexualization occurs whenever A. a person's value is determined primarily or only in form of their sexual appeal, B. a person is held to a standard that equates narrowly defined physical attractiveness with being sexy, C. a person is sexually objectified, or D. sexuality is inappropriately imposed upon a person. Any of these conditions serves as an indicator of sexualization. Another term that we need to discuss is the male gaze, which invokes sexual politics of the gaze and suggests a sexualized way of looking that empowers men and objectifies women. Let's head into our first superhero, the amazing and wonderful Wonder Woman, who has been a beacon of hope for many in the darkness and been a feminist symbol over the years. There have been some incarnations of her that wasn't so hopeful. Wonder Woman has changed over the years, morphing and changing with the times, but also changing with the male gaze. From 1975 to 1979, the Wonder Woman live-action television series, also known as The New Original Wonder Woman and The New Adventures of Wonder Woman, gave the character's philosophy every reason to take off in popular consciousness. The show has a comic book style and a step forward in the complexity from the campy, lighthearted Batman television series. Much like the ideals core to Wonder Woman herself, the series brought audiences closer to the current expectation of human drama by grounding the tongue-in-cheek atmosphere with its earnest, empathetic protagonist. Wonder Woman in the series is oversexualized. She's treated like a superhero Barbie with her constantly changing outfits. Now let's look into Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman is much more grounded in reality. Her appearance is mentioned as the characters are reacting to her beauty, but she isn't being sexualized. In fact, Steve wants her to hide her body. She does show her body, it's to save people and make a statement of power, taking her power and not letting anyone take it from her. The next is arguably the most sexualized character in media, Miss Harley Quinn. A personal favorite, we're going to discuss Margot Robbie's Harley in Suicide Squad. Short shorts, wet clothes, and high heels. As described in our definition of sexualization, the value of the person. It's just sexual appeal, and with Harley in Suicide Squad, that's what we see. She is only valuable as her appearance. She's only obsessed with getting back to her pudding. Every male character is sexualizing her, from the guards to other main characters, and even the director. Why else put in shots of her bending over and having wet clothes with her already tight costume? These are very motivated by showing off her physical appearance. Her personality is reduced to one-liners, and her origin story isn't treated with much credence. Switching gears to Harley Quinn's series with Kaley Cuckoo, here's an animated Harley who still dresses in a bralette and hot pants, but is centered around getting out of an abusive relationship and pursuing her own desires. Unlike Suicide Squad's Harley, Cuckoo's has more of a personality. She has goals that aren't centered around getting back to a man. She is the underdog who has to earn her respect. An interesting observation is that her appearance is rarely brought up, and even though she is wearing sexy clothes, no one mentions it. She is accepted without being sexualized. Of course, we could talk about how Robbie's Harley has changed since her first film, since it's coming off the tails of the Harley Quinn series, which came out in 2019. I believe that was the influence. The next woman is neither hero nor villain, but a thief, with an obsession with skin-tight vinyl, Catwoman. Let's dig into Michelle Pfeiffer's adaptation of the feline character. Batman Returns, which came out in 1992, was in the feminist wave of girl power, and that's what we see in Selina. Pfeiffer's portrayal of the role, in my opinion, is an almost perfect performance. However, the rest of the cast always falls short. Everyone is blinded by her, whether it's Bruce Wayne or the Penguin, wanting to marry her because of how incredible she is. Selina in this film has been through hell and back, and she takes her persona and uses it to claim the power inside of her. However, as with Harley Quinn, it's about how the other characters treat her to see how she is sexualized. Her main standard is her physical attractiveness. We wouldn't care about Selena if she weren't for her skin-tight vinyl suit. That's very clear in her arc, and she starts out as a very intelligent secretary, but then it's only when she starts acting like a cat that she's noticed by all of the men. Now, instead of taking a modern Catwoman like Anne Hathaway, I instead want to compare it to Halle Berry's Catwoman. This film is very hated, and Halle Berry's Catwoman was begged to be forgotten by general audiences. This was a very important film for DC. It had a woman in a leading role. Halle Berry was a beloved actress, and she's a woman of color. However, I have an unpopular opinion, and that is the only reason the film failed is the script and the costume. Halle Berry is a great choice for Catwoman. She's strong and is a decent actress. However, instead of making her a secretary for someone of power, she's in a beauty company, and her Catwoman costume is dripping with sexual appeal. She is full of the male gaze that follows her. The film presents her agency, power, and freedom, and defiance of her hypersexualization, just like Pfeiffer was in her time, but it was too much and the film failed. Thankfully, the Catwoman that came after her were much better at showing the true Catwoman, but she still hasn't had another leading film to date. For my last DC character, I want to show Supergirl. Supergirl is an interesting character that was actually created because Superman was so popular that they wanted to capitalize that and make a female Superman. Interesting that it's not Superwoman, but instead Supergirl. There's only been two major media surrounding the character. The first is Supergirl film in 1984 with Helen Slater. It's the run-of-the-mill story and the leading role of a female hero. Kara is innocent and doe-like throughout the entire film, trying to figure out how to be human. However, from the plot, you can tell this is marketed for women. Just look at the romance. And unlike the superwomen we've talked about, she is not sexualized. My theory is that female characters that come from a major male character, i.e. Supergirl, aren't sexualized because we see them as the male counterpart. Take Wonder Woman. She's sexualized, and she's been around just as long as Superman. Now let's take the Supergirl series from the CW. Melissa Benoist takes the role. As Vulture says in an article, this is a feminist series that's aware of the cultural and political implications of everything it's showing us. Supergirl recycles origin story of Superman, but with a woman Supergirl. There is a difficulty of a woman establishing herself as valuable when a man has already done all of the things she is capable of doing and being rewarded for them. So she's not sexualized and treated like a heroine, she is. This show came out in 2015 and Suicide Squad came out in 2016. The question being, why does this show do better for female superwomen than film? The answer is because it's Supergirl. You have girl in the title, even though she's not a girl. You can also chalk it up to its developers and writers. Let's switch some gears and let's pull some examples from Marvel Universe. Black Widow has proved herself to be a worthy Avenger in the MCU. However, it was a long time coming, and her first appearance in Iron Man 2 is a very femme fatale prototype and is very sexualized and objectified. It's even to the point where Tony says, "I want one." No. That's how much of an object she is in this film. But thankfully, she was redeemed throughout the entire MCU. And with her last appearance to date in the Avengers Endgame, she is a fully realized character. Her physical appearance has degraded, and the focus is more on her character instead of how sexy she is in her tight Black Widow outfit. The next hero is a bumpy ride. Elektra was the Jennifer Garner standalone film, and like Catwoman, it is one of the most hated comic book movies of all time, and it's very obvious to why. The plotline is a joke. A very popular film critic, Robert Eager, describes it as confused between satire and melancholy. In short, Elektra is a beautiful woman who is dangerous but sad. She is a high-class assassin in her tight, sexy, red assassin outfit. She has her hair blowing and her eyeliner perfect. This film really leans into the sexy without giving the story and the main character much complexity. There are scenes only to put into sexually objectify, such as she's kissing another woman. Now let's go modern. In Netflix Daredevil series, Season 2, Elektra returns, played by Elliot Young, and this character is treated with respect, and she is Daredevil's equal as well as his partner. Jung is not any less sexual, but her character's entire existence isn't just being about sex or being sexy, or just being with Matt Murdock, but rather she has a mission and a goal in mind, and she needs his help in order to achieve her goal. Young described Elektra as kind of a sociopath. This world is a game to her. It's like a chess game, and what motivates her is what she wants. She'll use anything she wants to use to get her goal, and if she needs to kill people, she will. She added that Elektra is neither good nor bad, but a person with different traits and layers. A complete 180 from the Jennifer Garner's version of Elektra. Jessica Jones came out in 2015 on Netflix, and it was one of the only characters we've seen that doesn't have a more sexualized version in media's history. By not giving Jessica Jones a costume, it makes the audience focus on her character and story. Jessica Jones doesn't focus on her sexy bod or distracting gadgets to tell her story. The show centers around a realistic portrayal of a female superhero. Her history in comics was over-sexualized, but the series adaptation changed it to focus just on her character. Jessica is grounded more in reality, dealing with SA, mental illness, and alcoholism, struggling with yourself and your trauma, and trying to overcome while also being a hero. It shows what it means to be a hero, fighting for others and also fighting for ourselves. This is the future of Superwomen. This is what we strive for. Women represented not for their sexiness, but for their value as people. We look to the past to see how far we've come, and the male gaze is shrinking, and that women are beginning to rise.